Imagine a planet of little TJ lasers, all highly skilled in weapons and biotic tactics, with me as absolute ruler. If you don't want to be a part of this incredible vision, then you can get a space taxi back to Planet Idiot.
I'm TJ Laser, expert with lasers and phasers. Death to the alien scourge.
Where are we?
Lasers and phasers. Lasers and phasers.
Good evening everyone and welcome to round number 2 of the Inside Light Racing Championship for the PC, as the calendar today takes us under the floodlights and extreme heat of the desert at the Bahrain International Circuit. 5.4 kilometers, 15 corners, 3 DRS zones into turn 1, 4 and 11, promising to make things exciting in the laps to come. Expect some action into turn 1, one of the most popular overtaking spots around this track. Let's see if with the usage of the DRS into turn 4 any of the drivers can pay back the favor in some exciting battles. Speaking of excitement, hopefully we can have some action to the same level of excitement of Hamilton's triple overtake back in 2018. Maybe you can see a similarly spectacular move in the race today, and I tell the spectators today to pay attention to corner number 10, especially in the first lap, as it is a very tricky braking zone, and with most cars in close proximity of each other, chaos might be witnessed. Moving ourselves to the standings, we have Zerd, the winner of the previous race, also got the fastest lap, so you can see he leads with 26 points, 8 ahead of Julian, who sadly isn't able to race today. Entity in P3 for the Haas with Plexits in P4 as Lehman completes the top 5 with 10 points. After that we have the second Renault with 6 points, Iceman in 7th with 6, then Deslads in 8th with 4, Bounds in 9 with 2, and JSR, our only reserve in the top 10, with only 1 point. Moving to the constructors standings, we have Renault leading the way with 20 points to his name. Then we have Ferrari in second place with 18, Rich Energy in third with 15, Alfa Romeo in fourth with 1 point, and most of the other teams haven't scored any points so far this season. So with that, we can get ourselves started into our qualifying session, shall we? Okay, just sorting everything out on my second monitor. Sorting everything out, and let's get ourselves going. Okay, so currently following Corporal Carrot, the Toro Rosso driver is about to start his flying lap. Why not go on the TV pod with him so we can see what is his performance, also enabling the telemetry and lap data so you guys can see the inputs of the throttle and the brakes. Speaking of brakes, very hard on the brakes into turn number 1, a bit wide there on the apex, is going to have to be smooth on the power coming out of turn 2 and transitioning into turn 3. The RS wide open in the back of his Toro Rosso as he goes up through the gears, waiting once again for the 100-meter marker board before getting the apex of turn number 4. Smooth on the power once again. We don't want any repeats of the mistake of Vettel in the actual Grand Prix as we now start going downhill through turn 7. Hard on the brakes again. Tricky corner to spot, not really an actual braking reference there, so you have to go sort of by feel lap after lap to get that corner right. Another tricky braking zone is exactly this one, turn 9 into turn 10 as it tightens towards the hairpin on the getaway. DRS wide open once again on the rundown into turn 11. You don't also have a proper braking marker there. It's about 60 meters away from the corners. You now start going uphill to turn number 12. Avoid the curb on the inside like the plague, and of course you must be paying attention to the rears as they might play tricks on you as they start wearing out through that corner in the actual race. He got away through number 13, now going hard on the brakes once again to get himself through the last corner. It is officially 2 corners, 14 and 15, but you do them in one motion. Getting the RS on the getaway is going to cross over the line, and a second place for him so far, 1:29.2. Taking a look at Entity, is also about to close out his fastest lap. Iceman gets new fastest lap, new fastest lap time, actually 1:28.6. Iceman in P2, and Entity with a 1:28.2 is the new top standard. But now we have Nicolas Longuet, the esports driver for the Red Bull, gets a 1:26.7 after him. Let's take a look at Noah. Looks like he's getting through the last corner. Some of these drivers are opting for the soft, some others for the hards. The Mercedes driver opted to go into the pits. That's not the case of Vigzi, the reserve driver making his debut today, gets himself up to P3. Great lap from himself with the 1:28.2. We also had the retirement from Felix, I believe. So one of the drivers of the Mercedes, unless they can get back in the lobby, they are going to have some issues, not getting the qualifying performance they were expecting of themselves, I'm sure of. Plexitz is also getting to the last corner on the hards. He has to beat Zerd's lap time if he wants to be the best of the hard tire starters. Gets himself 8th place with a 129.2 for the Dutchman. Looking downwards on the order, Lehman looks like he nullified his first flying lap. He's going back to 0 ERS, so he's probably going to abort the lap, taking the car into the pits. So we are going to follow with J. Cole, who unfortunately did not reach the end of the previous race, the season opener at Albert Park. So hopefully he can start the season on, well, trying to recover from the bad note with which he started the season, trying to get a kickstart on his point scoring season with a good race. Hopefully he can do that starting with this qualifying session. He is currently on the hards, currently in sector number 2. Unfortunately, we can't tell what his lap time is currently according to his rivals. You could only have the delta towards his previous fastest lap, as it is his first flying lap. We don't have that data at the moment. Lehman looks like he's actually going for a third lap on those tires, as he went out saving ERS through the out lap, and before going into the pits he's going to give it beans once again, trying to not get a lap invalidated this time around. So let's see what Williams does. We also have Noah bringing his car out of the pits for an out lap before getting his qualifying done on the softs, getting his first flying lap sorted out. Let's see what the McLaren does though, getting himself a bit of a tank slapper there. Did well to catch it as he crosses over the line, and it's going to be P10 on the hard. So not something to make fun of, right? It's a respectable 10th place there for the McLaren driver, as we have Lehman currently in the second sector. There's also Rataka, another reserve, and Noah still on their out laps, followed by Iceman and Corporal Carrot. So let's see how those guys, what those guys can do. Lehman gets through the last corner, he's going to open the RS, cross over the line, and he's going to take his hard tires into another lap nullified. He just isn't able to get a lap hooked up, unfortunately for him. So let's get ourselves to Zerd. Zerd is going for a flying lap. He's also on his third set of tires, so maybe it's just practicing faster laps. Plexitz is also on a used set of tires. Looks like he made a mistake coming out of turn number 4, got wide there. So let's take a look at Noah, who hasn't posted a lap time just yet. Let's go on board with the number 13 of the Mercedes, getting himself a bit wide there on the apex of turn number 4. Noah is also one of those drivers who weren't able to finish the Australian Grand Prix. Actually, both Mercedes did not finish these or the previous Australian Grand Prix. So Felix retiring from the session, or at least leaving the session, unless he can get back and still post a lap time. It's not the greatest start of the season at all for the Mercedes boys, as he gets himself a bit of a correction movement there on the steering wheel as he tries to put the power down as early as he can, coming out of turn 10, and someone, that is not going to be helpful. Someone smashed the 50-meter marker board from the approach into turn 11. That is definitely not going to help some of these drivers today. Let's see what Noah does. Gets a bit wide on the exit, not sure if that's enough for the game to give him a slap on the wrist. He's moving up to mode number 5 on his ERS. There are some who say mode number 4 would be better in terms of straight line speed. And speaking of that speed, he was trying to get the most of it out of the last corner as a huge tank slapper. That cost him quite a bit of time. Can't get past 12th place for the German. Now, Lehman, is he going to finally be able to get a lap done? We are going to take a look at him later, as we have Nicolas Longuet on another set of softs. Let's take a look at him as he's now approaching corner number 10. He's taking another set of softs. He currently has an over 1 second, I would say 1.3 seconds if my mental maths are not playing tricks on me, 1.3 seconds is the gap between first and second at the moment. Of course, second place third is still on the hard tires, which is quite surprising considering the best times for the remaining cars of the top 5 have been done on the softs and on the mediums. So Zerd with amazing qualifying pace, at least so far on this qualifying session. Let's see what the Frenchman does. Is going to open the RS at the exit of this last corner, going to cross over the line, and it is an improvement, about 3/10 quicker than the previous lap. 1:26.4 for the Frenchman. Entity just started this flying lap, or rather it just closed out this flying lap. Gets himself a 1:28.1 and is going to bring it back into the pits rather soon. Iceman is also on his in-lap, Rataka as well, as both drivers are 5th and 6th respectively. Corporal Carrot managed to improve to an 8th place, but hasn't been able to crack the top 5 just yet. Cisco, the Portuguese, is currently on a flying lap. He has a racing point quite close to him. I would say that is Dazlad, as Darren is still in the pits. Dazlad is still on a flying lap, so let's continue with the Portuguese final corners, as he is currently 16th place with a 1:30.0. He definitely wants to improve on that one. He didn't have the greatest start of the season. He managed to finish the Grand Prix at Albert Park, but he finished a lap down. The safety car didn't really help this case. Looks like he got his lap invalidated and is going to bring it into the pits, as we have Dazlad going for a flying lap. So let's follow him, as it looks like he's the only one on a flying lap at the moment. Corporal Carrot already has 1 lap on his softs. I would say he's bringing them back, or he's bringing the car back into the pits. So Dazlad is the only one at the moment doing a flying lap. So let's follow with the Racing Point driver. He who finished in 8th place at Australia, so respectable finishing position amongst all the chaos that happened, especially in the last few laps with the deployment of the safety car and the collision that was had in the last lap. So Dazlad probably managed to pick up a few positions from that chaos, got himself a very nice 8th place finish. So he's going to try to improve on that one though. He's going to show that that 8th place was not a fluke, and he's going to aim, I would say, at least for the top 5. I think this could be a good challenge for the British driver. Let's see what he does as he approaches now corner number 13. That's the apex nicely. A bit of counter steering there on the exit, as there's not much traction on that curb and he went a bit too greedy on the power application. That's what he gets now through the last corner. The tires complained a slight bit under braking. It looked like the sound came from the rears, and looks like he got his lap invalidated when he got wide on the last on the third to last corner. So maybe got his lap invalidated there. Nonetheless, is taking it into the pits. So taking a look at Darren, going to go into the onboard camera to be able to see who is where on the track. So Plexitz is the first out of the cars that are currently in outlaps to start their lap. Going to take a look at the order. Darren is currently going uphill through turn 11. Shadow is Corporal Carrot rather is still early on the lap, and Shadow looks like he's about to start his flying lap. Okay, so let's take a look at Plexitz. Cisco also started an outlap. He's going to try once again on the softs to improve on that 16th place. So let's see what the Dutchman does, getting himself downhill into turn number 8. He got a 4th place finish at Australia, so very good performance, barely missed out on the podium. But yeah, very good job from the Dutchman. He's going to definitely try to aim for the podium in this Grand Prix. Of course, I haven't been notified about the weather expectations for the race, but I would say no rain is to be expected, so though all the chaos might not be seen, or at least not as high amounts of chaos due to the lack of rain. So Plexitz got himself through corner number 13. He's going to take the car number 69 through the last 2 corners of this layout. He manages to get through those, smooth on the power as well. Looks like the car didn't get any instability there. Going to cross over the line and P2. Good lap there from Plex. It's 1:27.1. Very good lap from the Dutchman indeed. Now let's take a look at Shadow, who is currently in sector number 2. Let's take a look at Cisco, who is further up the lap. Looks like Shadow is closer to the end of the lap, so let's see what the British driver does. Going to get himself through the last couple corners now. Moon on the power as well, went a bit over the curb, managed to keep it together, opens DRS, crosses over the line, and P3 on the mediums, 1:27.7 for Shadow, getting himself the first place of the second row of the grid. Corporal Carrot is still on his flying lap. Noah is just started, still in the first sector. Cisco is also in sector 2, improving by a tenth. I believe the Toro Rosso is actually is behind in terms of on-track position, so Cisco will finish his lap first. So let's follow it to number 97. He aborted his second try at making a qualifying lap on the softs. The first one wasn't the greatest ever, as there was a Renault going wide. I imagine that to be Plexit, who is bringing the car back into the pit lane. So let's see how that one goes for him. Cisco is going to open the DRS, crossing over the line. ERS already depleted before reaching the end of the lap. 9th place for the Portuguese though. And after that, where it was Corporal Carrot, gets himself up to P10 with the 1:29.1 also on the softs. Now we have Andy Nater in the sector 2, improving by almost 4 tenths there. A bit of a puff of smoke as he went on the brakes into turn number 10. Let's take a look at Rataka. Rataka is a bit further behind in terms of the on-track position, but I imagine he's going to be the next one to cross the line. Zerd is also in the turn number 10, so yeah, we can take a look at the McLaren. Let's see what he does. He's improving by almost a second as he crosses the sector split for the end of the second sector of this track, getting himself now through the last couple corners. Let's see what number 66 does. He's going to get smooth on the power, nicely done. Mode number 4 on DRS, DRS wide open, going to cross over the line, and it is 5th place for Andy Nater. As after that we have, let me take a look at who that was. I actually forgot who was immediately behind him, so let's take a look at Zerd. Can he get himself on the front row? 3rd place with a 1:27.4. Very competitive lap there from the Dutchman. Let's see now what Iggsy does. He's still in corner number 10. Iceman is right behind him, and J. Cole is further up the order. So it's going to be J. Cole, then Higgsy and Iceman. Let's see what this McLaren does, as Shadow has retired from the session. Looks like he has had enough with his performance. He's satisfied with that. So best case scenario is going to get 4th. Plexit, Cisco, Corporal Carrot, Felix cannot improve on their laps. Shadow and Zerd can't improve as well. So let's see if they get demoted or not. Nicola Longue is also on a flying lap. J. Cole gets P11. Let's take a look at Iggsy, who was a bit further up the order. Let's take a look at him. Now as he's getting himself, actually he's going to bring it into the pits. Iceman did the same. Let's see what Entity does as he's getting himself currently on the 2nd DRS zone, rather the 3rd DRS zone of this track. Let's see how it goes. Iggsy retires from the session, so he's satisfied with starting on the mediums in what is provisorily 7th place. Andy Nater went to P5. Nicola Longue retired from the session, satisfied with his 1:26.4. And it looked like, did someone move up? I think it was that. Yeah, Daslad moves up to P8, gets brought down to P9 by Lehman, who gets a 1:27.4, moves up to P4. Let's see what the Diaz driver does. He's going to get himself crossing over the line and moves up to P6 with a 1:27.7 to his name. Everybody else has crossed over the line in the meantime, and this is it for the qualifying performance today. Just waiting for a couple moments until the game realizes qualifying is actually done. There you have it. And while we wait for the standings, we can speak a bit about the strategies. The strategy to be at, I would say, would be mediums to hards, pitting at lap 11. as we are going to take a look at the official results. So Nicola Longuet over 7/10 quicker than Plexit, as we have Zerd as the best of the medium starters, Lehman in P4, Shadow P5, NTT P6, Andinator P7, Iggy in P8, good job from the reserve driver, Dazlad in P9 for the best of the racing points, and Iceman closes the top 10 in the second Alfa Romeo. Then we have Rataka, also one of our reserve drivers, doing his debut Grand Prix. Noah follows with J. Cole, Cisco, Corporal Carrot, Darren, Kaibashimi in 17th, and behind him Felix, who dropped out from the session. Don't know if he's going to be back on time to start the race, but unfortunately for him, if he's going to start the race, he's going to start from the back of the pack. So yeah, as we were talking about the strategies, we have the one stop from medium to hard. Of course, you can do the reverse from hard to medium, pitting at, I would say, at about lap 15. But those who are starting on the softs can do soft, medium, medium, or soft, hard, soft. If you go for the medium strategy, I would say laps 8 for the first pit stop and then lap 17 for the second one would be the best. If you take the hard, I would say about lap 23 would be the best window to pit for the softs. Of course, it depends on how comfortable each driver is on their tire wear and their tire management skills. So just waiting for the session to start, every driver to get themselves through the loading procedures, also discussing their strategies with their own Jeffs. So let's see. It's going to be interesting, especially for the drivers outside the top 10. Will any of them pick the start on the soft tires? That's going to be interesting to see. Let's take a look. Everyone is already on their formation lap, so we're going to open the detail tire menu there, and as you can see, we have Darren starting on the soft despite starting the race back in 16th place, so that is quite interesting, I would say. In the top 10 we have only 4 drivers starting on the soft. That's Iggy, Entity, Plexits, and Nicola Longuet. We also only have 2 drivers starting on the hards, J. Cole and Kaibashimi. So we have the most popular choice as the medium tires, the yellow-walled medium tires. So let's see which driver can work these tires out the best, especially those who are going on the two-stop strategy. Of course, there is a possibility to go from softs to hards, but I have seen it be pulled off. But you struggle a lot at the end of both stints. You have to extend the softs, and then you have to really suffer on the hards, and just the lack of grip you have just to keep the car on the road is very hard by itself, let alone keep it on the road without any mistakes and without losing considerable amounts of time. So it is going to be quite hard for someone to pull off the one stop starting on the soft, so I highly doubt we are going to witness such a strategy be employed today. So looking at the chat, hello everyone, welcome to the live stream. By the way, if you are enjoying it, give the stream a like. Of course, that also helps out with the analytics for the channel, and of course it helps it get promoted into some other YouTubers or some other YouTube users who might also be a fan of motorsports or just electronic sports in general. So let me know, guys, your predictions for who you guys think is going to win the Grand Prix. Of course, Nicola Longuet, I would say, is the favorite, but is going on a two-stop strategy, so that is indeed going to be interesting to see, as we have everyone getting the autopilot kicking in, as said autopilot brings each car to their grid slots. We had already contact between, looks like, Dazlad and a Haas, or maybe it was between Darren and Kaibashimi, because it's the only racing point that's close to a Haas. So as you can see, not the smoothest sailing through the formation lap for some of these drivers, but it is what it is. So yeah, there you have it now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Bahrain Grand Prix. We can see there a good start from Nicola Longue and from Brexit as well. Zerd is getting challenged by Shadow into turn number 1. Lehman is going on the inside. It looks like it is 3, maybe 4 wide into turn 1. Zerd is on the outside. That's going to turn into the inside of turn number 2 and into number 3. It looks like there was contact with Brexit. He's going to lose out all the way down the order into the rundown of turn number 4. He's already dropped down to P6. He's going to get challenged as well by Andy Nater. Takes a look at the inside. There's contact. Diaz has nowhere to go. He did well to recover. There's also contact with the Racing Point. There's carbon fiber flying, and he has contact once again. Drops down to P16, and actually it looks like he's going to drop down to close to last place, place number 17 there, as Iceman also didn't have the greatest of starts. He's down to 10th place on a traction battle there with Rataka as we approach corner number 10. Also Wiggsy going a bit wide there as he lost the place comparing to his starting position. He's still side by side though, the number 12 to the Williams. The Williams is going to have the inside into corner number 11. Let's see how it goes for them. Still side by side. It's going to be the outside of turn 11, which is going to turn into the inside of turn 12, but Iceman decides to back off and is going to settle for P11 at the moment. Jumping back into the front, Nicola Longue taking advantage of the chaos to already get 9/10 away from Lehman, who also has 9/10 away from Plexit, who's followed closely by his teammate in P4. Zerd has been able to recover into position number 5 and is right on the gearbox of Shadow. Let's follow on board with the Dutchman. He's going to challenge Shadow. Of course, the RS not available at the moment, so he's going to have to just try to stick in the slipstream, and looks like he didn't have the space to challenge anyone. Speaking of challengers, Higgsy overtook Dazzled. Iceman finally gets by Rataka and moves up into the points paying positions. J. Cole also drops down into P13. Entity looks like, oh no, sorry, there's Zerd finally challenging Shadow. He felt some lack of confidence on the brakes through turn 1 and is going to try to take advantage of that into turn number 4. Managed to do so on the exit up into P4. The Dutchman got quite hung out to dry at the start of the race into turn 1, but he's already recovered through positions, went past the As and past the Renault. So great recovery job to get himself up into P4. Nonetheless, he's not the first driver of the ones that are using the mediums. Now it is Lehman occupying that spot. So we have Iggsy, who made his way back up into P8, overtaking Dazzlad, who looks like is now coming under pressure. Oh, we have a mistake there from Entity. Maybe lost the rear. Sorry, was that not Entity? It looked like to me like it was Entity. I'm not quite sure who that was, unless the standings are trolling me. We also have, is that Dazzlad? I believe that to be Dazzlad. Noah and Iceman are going to challenge him. We're going to go on board with the Williams, who has prime seat in the house to witness that battle. Dazzlad is maintaining P8 at the moment. Iceman is going to have to settle for P10 once again, tucking right behind the rear wing of the Mercedes. Is going to pop out, going to be daring on the brakes into turn number 1. Dazzlad is there though. He lost a lot of time there actually. Maybe Noah's and Iceman's slipstream was so powerful that they actually caught up to Dazzlad, so Iceman couldn't just send it into turn 1 without risking not avoiding contact with the Racing Point. A bit wide there for Iceman on the exit of turn number 4, but he's smooth sailing now. He's up to P9. Now, taking a look up and down the order, we have Andy Nater pressurizing Corporal Carrot. There's 3/10 separating the two, even though I would say unless one of them has a mistake, there's no overtaking maneuvers to be had at the moment. Zerd continues his charge. He's been closing in on Plex. The gap is at the moment less or about half a second, as Lehman is starting to lose out considerable amounts of time to Nicola Longue, and Plexit is in P3, 1.5 seconds away from second place. So pretty soon we are going to have the RS available. Rataka is going to take advantage of a possible mistake of Noah there, as the Mercedes driver drops out drops out of the points paying positions. Down to P11 he goes. Zerd finally got past Plexit, says he has a moment and is in the wall. Plexit's having a mistake there. I thought he had just challenged the Renault, but he loses the rear coming out of the last corner. Don't know if there was actual contact with his teammate. His teammate was very close to them. And Kai Bashimi is also leaving the session. the Renault driver is down to P16, is going to take it to the pits, and that is a disastrous start of the race for him. Rataka and Noah get promoted a place, so now they are both battling for P9. Noah gets promoted back into the points pink position, so we have yellow flags. Is that Corporal Carrot? Looks like potentially we had yellow flags in the sector 3, so not really sure who those are for, but Rataka getting himself allowing himself rather to maintain P9 ahead of Noah. This battle is not going to end anytime soon, I would say, though, as we jump onto Dazlad, who's quite close to the rear of the Alfa Romeo right in front of him. So let's see, he's going to have the RS, so even though it looked like he didn't have as good of an exit as the Alfa Romeo driver, as the Belgian driver of the Alfa Romeo, he is definitely going to keep himself in contention for a possible overtaking maneuver down into turn 1. XD is in basically the same position. He's chasing down Entity in a solid 6th place for his debut race. Not bad at all, I would say. Still on 3 laps old softs. The car ahead has the same compound of tires. So let's see how that one goes. He needs to get a better exit, because although he's having a DRS at his disposal, that looks like too big of a gap to bridge with DRS and slipstream, at least at this point of the race. Yes, he is too far away, not really able to contest that 5th place, and that's the case as well for Tesla. Looking back, J. Cole, Darren and Noah are quite close to each other. Rataka also has Noah pressurizing him as well. So Igzy wasn't able to challenge into turn 4. Dazlad having the same case to him as well. And there's a mistake from Noah, goes wide at turn 4. Darren is going to say thank you very much. J. Cole as well. And McLaren. Oh, Noah, what happened to him? Did he lose the rear, trying to get the power back down as quickly as possible, trying to compensate for that? Because he went wide, so maybe to compensate and still try to minimize damage, he tried to put the power down as early as he could, but ended up making his case worse. He's down to P14, over 2.5 seconds behind the car ahead of him. That's the Haas of Kai Bachimi. So very unfortunate stuff there from the Mercedes driver. Igzy is much closer this lap than he was in the previous lap compared to Entity. The DRS coming out of turn 10 helped his case quite a bit, as he's practically glued to the rear diffuser of the Haas. So we are probably going to have a change of positions getting into turn 1. Let's see who gets the better exit out of the two. Dazlad lost 2 tenths in the previous lap compared to the same zone in the previous lap to Iceman, and Igzy just smooth sailing ERS and an easiest maneuver of his racing career, I would say. Moves up to the top 5, so good job from the Ferrari driver on his debut race. Dazlad isn't quite able to keep up with Iceman in the previous lap, so he's going to have to stay put in P8 for the time being. Who might not have to stay put is Jacob, who's going to have the RS and charging on the mirrors of Ratikai. I'm sure he has a bright orange blob filling up his mirrors, so he wasn't really able to have an opportunity to attack there, but I'm sure one is going to present in the laps to come. Jumping once again to the lead, you can see all drivers, this is a very competitive grid. Of course, all drivers are still in the same camera shot, but as you can see, it's 3 seconds already to second place Lehman. That actually, yes, that's Cisco, who has already been lapped, so very unfortunate start of the race for the Portuguese, as he is already lapped by the leader. Then we have Lehman over 3 seconds behind. Zerd is starting to close in on the pole, so that's going to be interesting to see for the battle between the Dutch and the Pole. They are both on the same compound of tire, so it's going to be interesting. Looks like Zerd has the pace advantage at the moment, but Lehman is also going to take slipstream from Cisco. Eventually Cisco is going to have to open up, because it doesn't look like he has the same pace as the remaining drivers in the top 3. So going to take a look, as Iceman is half a second away from Entity, who has started to drop back after getting overtaken by Higgsy, and Iceman is going to pressurize the Haas quite a bit. Let's see who gets the better exit. Looks like they had similar exits. Entity is on softs though, so at this point, of course, the softs degrade a bit quicker. Entity almost had a bit of a slide there under braking, and that cost him the positioning on the track to defend on the best. Ooh, nice catch there from Iceman to control the slide, as no one wanted to back out from that one and into such a tight corner. Sometimes that happens. Iceman making sure to stay in control of this car, but maybe he should have backed out and not lost as much time, not only costing time to Entity, but also not losing time to the car behind. He's nevertheless going to get DRS. Number 12 is practically glued to the rear diffuser. It's going to go down the inside of turn number 11, and he moves up to a P6. Entity is going to try to have a wider approach to turn number 12, though. Iceman, oh, having another moment of oversteer there. Yes, if you try to take the tires, or to try to take that corner too tightly, the tires do complain, and Iceman had to lift off. Entity had to lift off in response to not slam into the back of the Alfa Romeo, and that allowed Daslad to get himself joining the party. So Nicola Longuet is going to the pits. Zerd in the meantime has also been able to overtake Shadow. It wasn't Shadow in P2, it was Lehman, so sorry about that. Lehman inherits the lead, and no moves to be seen as well for these guys. So Nicola Longuet is going to come out of the pits right in the battle for the last of the points paying positions, as Darren is battling Kai Bashimi for 11th place. Looks like Kai has dropped out of the session, as he is ghosted at the moment, which is quite unfortunate to see, as Darren makes an easy maneuver up to P11. Nicola Longuet rejoins the track in P10. He has a bit of traffic in front of him in the form of the McLaren of Andy Nater, so the British driver is going to try to make life difficult to Longuet. Let's find out about that one. This might actually help quite a bit the drivers who started on the mediums, because of course they won't have to put up with the battle, maybe apart from Lehman and Zerd, as Zerd is starting to close in. We had yellow flags. That's sector 1. Looks like that wasn't for Darren. Andy Nater, though, getting very wide at turn 10. I wasn't expecting that one, but he gets wide at turn number 10, and Nicola Longuet with superior traction just gets himself up into P9. He has 4 seconds of clean air ahead of him, so let's see how that one develops. What is the pace that the Frenchman is going to be able to imprint in the laps to come. So now looking at Daslad, who is finally caught up to Entity. Entity is dropping places and overfaced after getting overtaken by Higgsy, who in the meantime went into the pits. Then Iceman overtaking the Haas, and now it is Daslad. Entity is a bit stubborn there, 8th lap of his soft stint, so he's really stretching them. I'm sure he's starting to struggle a little bit on them. Is he going to try the softs too hard? I'm not sure about that one, as Darren gets a 5-second stop, not stop and go penalty, but a 5-second penalty for exceeding the speed at the pit, exceeding the speed limit at the pit entry, unfortunately for him. So he's going to drop down to P15 while he's pitted. He might drop more places as before he comes out of the pit lane. Daslad wasn't able to overtake Entity despite having DRS into turn 1 and turn 4. Rataka having the same case happen to him, as he is on mediums. The car ahead is on hards, but still he wasn't able to overtake J. Cole and promote himself to a P7. Nicola Longuet is already only 2 seconds away from Rataka. That is the difference in pace. Not only is showing great pace, he also has the freshest tires of the pack at the moment in terms of the top 10 drivers. So is the only driver who pitted and maintained himself in the top 10. So is he going to suffer a little bit with traffic from the battle between Rataka and J. Cole? Those two drivers aren't pitting anytime soon, I would say. So let's see how that one goes. Daslad is still trying to hunt down Entity. It's the second, maybe third lap that is trying to overtake the Haas. The Haas goes a bit defensive. That might compromise his exiting speed. Let's go on board with the driver of the Racing Points, and Entity finally gets himself on the pits and is going to switch for, I would say, a set of medium tires. Let's take a look at that. Let's see what tires is going to switch onto. It looks like it's actually a set of hards. So soft, hard, soft is a possibility for the Haas driver, or maybe just hards, soft to hards until the end. It's going to be quite risky, but let's see how that one does. Nicola Longuet hasn't been able to get close enough to Rataka and J. Cole to challenge for position. We did have Higgsy oh, sorry. Yeah, Iggy was quite close to Purple Carrot, but Carrot isn't able to pull off any overtaking attempts at the moment, especially as Iggy has softer tires at the moment. So now this is going to be the battle for the lead. Those two drivers know that if they lose time battling each other, Nicola Longuet is only going to get an advantage from that, so Zerd must do this quick. He's currently on 0 ERS, he has 50% of ERS on his car. Zerd has basically the same amount of ERS, so Nicola Longuet overtaking already Radika and Jekyll, rather quick, getting disposed of the cars that are now demoted to P8 and P7. Let's see how it goes. Lehman opts to go into the pits. Oh, sorry, no, he actually does not go into the pits. I was thinking it was going to be a bit weird, but he's just trying to deny DRS to the Alfa Romeo driver and manages to contain him behind. So it's still P2 for Zerd. So let's actually take a look on board. Does Zerd get a better exit now into turn number 4? Looks like he does. Mode number 5 on his ERS is going to try to force the outside approach. He is denied by Lehman. Oh, the pole gets around the outside. He's trying to defend the best he can, and he actually does. Great defensive maneuver there from the Williams driver, denying again the chance of Zerd to move into the lead of the Grand Prix. Of course, the more these guys battle, the worse it's going to be for their chances, as Lehman gets a bit sideways there on the exit. Zerd almost slammed into the back of him, but no damage to be seen at the moment. So as you can see, Zerd, the camera wasn't really helping me there, but Zerd doesn't have any form of wing damage in his car at the moment. He's still chasing down Lehman very closely indeed, getting the RS on the approach to turn 11, trying to get a wider approach into turn 12, just maintaining a higher apex speed. Let's see what he does. He's going to be able to be smoother on the power at the exit of turn number 13. Lehman looks like he got a slightly better exit, but of course Zerd is going to have DRS at his disposal right after these, what are officially two corners, corners 14 and 15, but he makes a mistake. Lehman is able to get a better exit once again, and Lehman is actually going into the pits this time around. Let's see what he's going to do. Is he going to switch onto hard statum until the end of the race? It took these tires for 11 laps, so it's feasible to take them for to take the yards for 19, which is actually as long as what I had on my annotations. It's textbook pit stop lap to switch from the mediums to the hards. So Kai Bashimi is still ghosted, I assume. Is he actually still ghosted? No, looks like we managed to get... No, I'm actually a bit confused. Is he still ghosted? I can't quite tell. Yeah, it looks like he is still ghosted, but he's still in the top 10. Andy Nater also getting in the pits for a swap onto the hard compound of tires, getting demoted down to P13 so far. Rataka has lost time to J. Cole, so maybe a mistake from the Williams driver, who's also making his debut today in a respectable 6th place at the moment, as Cisco is going wide to allow the other cars to lap him. But yes, Lehman, not Lehman, sorry, Rataka making a mistake somewhere along the way, and the gap to J. Cole is already over a second. Of course, J. Cole's tires are probably in better condition. Of course, it depends a little bit on the driving style, but Cisco has the spin there. Cisco goes for a ride, he hits the wall on the inside of turn number 12, and his race goes from bad to worse. He moves himself into the racing line, forces Iggy to take avoiding action. That was quite dangerous. He was ghosted, but I don't blame Iggy for trying to avoid his teammate's car. Very dangerous there what Cisco did. I'm not sure if the stewards are going to take a look at that one. So we have Zerd coming into the pits. Is Lehman going to come ahead of him or not? So it's going to be close, but Lehman does maintain what is net P2, I would say. Yes, it is net P2, because J. Cole and Lehman, J. Cole and Iceman haven't pitted yet. So Lehman maintains his place ahead of Zerd. That is the Haas behind him. Can't quite tell who that is. That's Kai Bashimi. So I still can't tell if he's ghosted or not. But it is what it is. As I was going to say, Iggy I'm not sure if he got a warning for that, because of course, oh, Nicolas Longuet got past Iceman. I wasn't expecting that one. I thought the gap was big enough for Longuet to not be able to overtake, but there you have it. The Red Bull gets himself promoted into P1 once again, takes the lead of this Grand Prix, going to pit once again though, but is as demolishingly quick pace, so let's see if he can compensate for the fact that he's going to pit once again. Of course, once he pits once again, he's going to have fresher tires, so just like we saw at the most recent real-life Grand Prix, the softer tires and the fresher tires might make a very big difference in terms of lap time. So Nicolas Longuet is going to try to take advantage of that as Iceman gets himself through the pits, but going to jump to the other Alfa Romeo as Zerd is closing in on Lehman. He looks like he is too far away though to try an overtaking attempt this time around, so he's going to stay put in what is at the moment 6th place. Iceman, is this lag or does he have a stop and go penalty? Maybe it was just lag, but yeah, it was just lag as he got teleported further into the grid lane, or not the grid lane, the pit lane, and rejoins the track ahead of Entity, so he's back out in P8 on brand new hards. As we have yellow flags in sector 2, that was Darren, I would assume. Darren is out of the race and brings out the yellow flags. No formal safety car to be seen, at least just yet, so unfortunately for some of these drivers, they can't really try to force Nicolas Longuet into a bad situation by having the safety car being brought out. Yes, Kaibashimi is definitely ghosted, I could see quite clearly there. Zerd actually has a go at Lehman. Maybe a mistake from the pole coming out of turn number 10, and Zerd says thank you very much and gets himself promoted into P3. Lehman is going to have to stay put in P4 for the time being. J. Cole is getting closed down quite quickly by the other cars who have already pitted. Of course, J. Cole hasn't pitted yet, so he's going to do so in about 2 to 3 laps time, I would assume. Let's see when he actually opts to switch onto a set of the yellow marked mediums. Looking up and down the order, Lehman is less than half a second away from Zerd. Is not quite close enough to try to overtake though. We have Igzy, who looks like he is close enough to overtake, but it is on Kaibashimi who has been disconnected. So Lehman actually didn't have the greatest exit off turn 3, so Zerd managed to get a couple tenths there, and there goes away the chance of Lehman to get back into P3 on this lap. Looking at the timings between drivers, Dasland is still quite close to Entity even after the pit stops. These two are very close together, but still Dasland isn't able to get past the Slovenian driver of the Haas, so he's going to try something better than that to get himself past. Let's see how that one goes. Looking at the other drivers, most of them are separated by at least a second. Of course, Kaibashimi Shadow is 3 tenths behind him, but Kaibashimi is disconnected, so it really doesn't count. So let's see, will Dasland get himself past? So let's see, he's closing in on Entity, and it is not enough at the moment. This isn't really an overtaking spot unless you have just a very big difference in speed. So normally, if you are closely matching the pace of your rival, you aren't really going to have a chance at overtaking there. But let's see what Dasland does now into turn number 1. He's much closer than he was in the previous lap. It's only 3 tenths this time around. Let's see what he does. Lehman, in the meantime, hasn't been able to overtake Zerd as well. So let's see what he does. No, he actually overtakes. Did Zerd make a mistake? We have yellow flags. Zerd is out. Zerd actually left the session. Zerd didn't have terminal damage, but he left the session, so his car is gonna get ghosted. What an unfortunate mistake there from Zerd. I don't know if there was contact between him and his rival, as Dasland is able to get past Entity finally. Entity has DRS but isn't quite able to respawn. But Zerd, I understand the frustration that might be to make such a mistake, but he just left the session. He doesn't even look like he has front wing damage, unless that is a visual glitch on my part, so I don't know why it disconnected there. I can understand the frustration behind it, but yeah, if he could just rejoin the track, he could still salvage a great result. He's still the championship leader, no matter what happens, because if he scores points today, he's still going to maintain himself ahead, right? So, especially as Julian, who was second place, isn't racing today. Lehman was in P3, if I'm not mistaken. No, sorry, that was Entity, and Entity is down to 10th place. So Zerd will still maintain the championship lead if he gets a considerable amount of points. I would say a top 5 would guarantee him to maintain in the top 5 as J. Cole finally gets into the pits. So yeah, it is quite sad to see. It was being an entertaining battle between Lehman and Zerd, but Lehman now has clean air in front of him to try to hunt down Nicolas Longuet, who of course has slightly older tires, but those are also softer, and is going to pit again and have a very big difference in terms of lap times once he comes out of the pits on another fresh set of mediums. J. Cole pits for a set of mediums that are the freshest tires out of everyone on track at the moment, apart from Kaibashimi, but again he's still disconnected. So J. Cole comes out of the pits in 9th place. The Williams of Rataka might challenge that one though. Let's see, his front wing isn't quite in a position where he was entitled to space there, but J. Cole does give it nonetheless and takes advantage of the higher traction on those mediums to pull away and maintain 9th place. Jumping now to P4, Iggy finds himself, it's quite funny to see Iggy, he's going to pit once again just like Nicola, but he finds himself in P3 in the first race here at IRLs, or ILR rather, sorry. So quite nice to see the reserve driver getting himself a respectable 3rd place at the moment. Shadow though is starting to close in. Of course, Iggy's tires are older despite being softer, which means in terms of the tire wear they are degrading much quicker than Shadow's, who I'm looking at it now. He has a quite cool helmet. I don't know if you guys paid attention to that. I'm going to follow with him on the broadcast cameras a little bit, so maybe you can see a better shot of his helmet, but it looks like a very, very cool helmet design. That black and white looks like very, very cool indeed. So praise, props there for Shadow for that design. That looks very, very cool actually. As we have yellow flags in sector 3, maybe a mistake from Plexits, who takes his race from bad to worse. You went very wide. It looks like it was the exit of corner number 13. Maybe he lost the rear through turn 12 and caught the car, but the car whiplashed on him. It doesn't look like he has damage. Yes, it doesn't look like he has damage on his front wing, but Corporal Carrot moves a place, even though it doesn't really matter too much because it's only 14th. Another mistake from Plexit, who's taking his car down into the pits and looks like he's going to be retiring from the session. He didn't even bother to slow down to respect the speed limit, so looks like the Renault is out of the race. He had a great qualifying performance. Unfortunately for him, he is out. It's going to be 0 points for the Renault driver, but probably not for the Renault team, as Shadow is doing a good job to get himself 4th place at the moment. Iggy is going to pit, so potentially a podium for Shadow, who was in contention for the win at Australia before a mistake sent him into the wall. Of course, the rain was quite tricky, especially at the exit of turn number 2, and they couldn't avoid losing the rear at the exit of said corner. Went into the wall, damaged his front wing, had to go back into the pits for replacements. Of course, the safety car allowed him to get back a few places and move up to P6, but compared to a possible race win, that's nothing, right? So he has a chance to get himself back on the podium, so he must be happy with that one, as he's getting the DRS of Iggy, but he's too far away to try to do anything at the moment to challenge for that P3. Looking down the order, we have Entity has now been chasing down Desled without actually being able to pull the trigger on the racing point, so the tables have turned, if I can say that, between the racing point and the AS drivers. They keep on getting each other just too far away for overtaking into the DRS zones, which well, I mean, it might be fun for them. It might be quite frustrating at the moment, but I'm sure once the race is done, they will look back on that one, and it might be a cool experience from them. They are just pushing each other at the moment. Sometimes it isn't the will-to-will battles that are the most exciting for the drivers. Sometimes it's exactly moments like this where you are trying your hardest to pull away and your rival is trying his hardest to catch up. Those moments where you are just pushing each other as racing drivers, sometimes those are the most enjoyable moments in a race. Darren, he had retired from the session a while ago. He has now left the lobby, it looks like, and Nicola Longuet is finally taking his tires to the pits. He's going to get him out down to P2, and it looks like he's actually going to drop down to a potential P4. Yes, he drops down to P4. Iggy gets past, Shadow gets past, but those two, at least those two, don't really have a chance to defend from Nicola Longuet, who comes out on brand new mediums, and he basically has clean air in front of him. He has 4 seconds of clean air in front of him. He can just push to his heart's content and try to get the fastest lap of the race as well. You see have Entity finally challenging Dazzlad into turn number 1. Will the Racing Point driver be able to respond? Let's look at that one. DRS is wide open on the back of the Racing Point. He's going to move into the inside. The number 9 is going to defend through the outside. He's going to be able to defend it. Looks like he's slightly ahead, approaching the corner. Now it's going to be a traction battle on the exit. They are still side by side as they approach the downhill section of turns 5, 6 and 7. Let's see how it goes. The Haas maintains himself ahead, but all that battling allowed J. Cole to join the party. So apart from just challenging each other, now they also have to be looking at the mirrors to try to defend from the papaya orange McLaren of J. Cole, who's very close to this. So Dazzlad as the wrestler going on board with the British driver. We have Prime City in the house for the battle for 7th place at the moment. Shadow looks like he has actually been losing time through the past few laps to Iggy, so Iggy found a way to increase his pace, or Shadow just outright made the mistake somewhere along the way. But J. Cole not getting the best exit, losing a little bit. Iggy finally gets himself into the pits, so he's going to bring out on another set of mediums. Oh no, he's actually going on soft, so it's going to be 8 laps of soft tire running for Iggy, who's going to be demoted to 9th place, potentially 10th place even. Let's see how that one goes. J. Cole is having a moment to try to overtake Dazzlad, who lost out DRS, not DRS, but I believe he lost out just distance to Entity, so the slipstream wasn't as effective on the Racing Point as it was for the McLaren, and the McLaren moves up to a P7. Iggy, as I was predicting, comes out of the pits in P10. Of course, he's going to have a great advantage in terms of tire compound and tire wear. That's going to give him a great advantage in terms of lap times, but nonetheless he is still going to have to contend with the traffic ahead of him. That might compromise his chances a little bit. J. Cole has been closing in on the car ahead, the Haas ahead. So we're going to jump now with Dazzlad, who once again has Prime City in the house for the battle there. J. Cole is going to use the RS to close in, even though Entity through the previous lap looks like he pulled away a little bit. Dazzlad didn't get the best third sector, that's why he was forced to stay put in P8. Will J. Cole have the same mistake coming out of turn number 13? Now looks like he's keeping up with the speed of Entity for the time being. Of course, J. Cole is on brand new tires, so let's see how that one goes. J. Cole is gonna get himself on the power smoothly, hopefully. He's going to duck behind as Entity is trying to negate the slipstream. J. Cole goes from right to the left to keep himself on the RS on slipstream range. He took a look at the inside, but he's going to give it a second thought and is going to stay put in 7th place at the moment. Iggy moves up to P10, overtaking Rataka, and J. Cole is going around the outside. He's actually going to pull off the switch back on the ass. Brilliant exit there, showing his superior. Not only the line allowed him to get a straightened out exit and go on the power earlier, but he also has softer tires. Ooh, there's contact there between all 3 of them actually, as J. Cole goes on the inside of turn number 8. Dazzlad is going to try to take a look at the inside. Now he actually looked at the outside of turn number 10. There could have been contact there between the McLaren and the Haas. The camera didn't really help me there. The camera, the Codemasters didn't really help me with the best camera angles for that battle. but looks like everything is as when it was starting. Entity, despite getting a compromised exit out of turn number 4, doing very well to maintain himself in 6th place. Of course, these all three cars are very close to each other, so I expect Entity to have to pull out from his bag of tricks to maintain himself in P6, because not only J. Cole is going to have DRS on him, Dazzlad is going to take the slipstream from both cars ahead of him and also have DRS. And I'm going to take a look to see who has the higher amount of energy. So J. Cole is the one with the highest at the moment. Entity is barely depleted his battery, and Iggy is also joining the party. Dazzlad wasn't able though to quite have a go at Entity, so we're going to take a look at the Ferrari, who is now witnessing the as we are witnessing the onboard from the Ferrari. Dazzlad is going to have a go at Entity. Entity has to open the trajectory. Iggy though having to lift off to avoid contact with the racing point ahead of him. This is quite important for him, I would say, especially as J. Cole has fresher tires than the two cars behind the McLaren. So if the Renault, if the Ferrari wants to catch up to J. Cole, he needs to make quick work of the cars ahead of him. That's going to be a bit hard, as until the turn number 1, I wouldn't say there will be many overtaking attempts or opportunities presented, as we have Iceman less than a second away. Oh, Iggy actually just sends it into turn number 11, moves up to P8. Great maneuver there, brave on the brakes, taking advantage of the fact of Dazzlad and Entity presumably struggling on those hard tires at this point of the race, and gets himself up to a P8. He's closing down. Look at the exiting speed, look at the closing speed on Entity, just the slipstream alone. Because in this game, and I believe all others from Codemasters for F1, just by having the softer compound you can reach a higher top speed, just by simply having the doesn't matter, of course, the wing settings might take a part into it, but if both cars have the same setup, the car that has the softer compound is going to reach a higher speed. You already overtook Entity and is going to challenge now for P6. J. Cole is going to have to defend around the outside. He does have a little bit of margin entering corner number 6 and manages, corner number 4, and manages to maintain himself in B number 6. So very well done there from the McLaren to defend. That's not going to be the end of it though, as of course, if you pay attention there to the standings, Iceman overtook Zerd, who is still a ghost car. So I'm sure all of those drivers are going to get promoted a place since Zerd retired from the session, but he just overtook Iceman, so I'm not sure if he's back to it or not, as J. Cole finally gets overtaken by Iggy. Entity is still in P8 with a couple car lengths away from Dazzlad, and as much as they battle, that might actually benefit Rataka as well, as he's starting to close in on these quartet, if I can say that, of cars that are from P6 down to P9. So let me just take a look at Zerd. Yeah, Zerd is definitely on a ghosted, so the level of AI is quite high because he just overtook Iceman, taking advantage of DRS. So let's take a look at the battle now for P6. J. Cole got DRS, but it's not enough to challenge Iggy. Iggy not only has smoother, younger tires, but also softer tires on his car. I don't know why today, but the word that keeps popping up into my head is smoother instead of softer for some reason. I apologize about that one. Entity had a little bit of a look, but isn't able to do anything at the moment as the gap increases to 1 second. Dazzlad might be able to challenge once again his rival of this entire race. Basically, J. Cole is 1 second away from Iggy. Entity is still in the DRS range of Dazzlad, but Dazzlad is a little bit closer, so let's see how that one goes, as the battle between the Alfa Romeos continues to have some interesting developments. Iceman just can't pull away from Zerd, unfortunately for him, but let's see how that one goes. Nicolas Longuet is currently 6 seconds away. Is he going to be able to close in on Lehman? I would say, I would assume the two-stop to be effective, but maybe Nicolas Longuet underestimating Lehman's pace. and it's now 6 seconds away from the lead with 3 laps to go. Even myself, I was expecting to see Nicola pull faster, not faster laps, but compared to Lehman, to close in at a faster rate. Looks like that is not the case. Dazzler is still hunting down Entity, but Entity himself got DRS, so Dazzler is going to have to wait for the next lap. But yeah, just goes to show to you guys what I was saying. Zerd, I don't know why he retired from the session. He did the spin, yes, that was a mistake, but he was contending for what is turning to be probably the race win. So Lehman having a great performance in terms of tire management to still not lose that much time compared to Nicola Longuet, considering the amount of laps he has used his hards on. He has used his hards for over double of the laps that Nicola Longuet has used his mediums for. So commendable effort there from the pole to get himself the lead at the moment, a 5-second lead over the Frenchman of the Red Bull. This battle, if I can call it that, isn't really developing to the extent I was expecting to. I would expect J. Cole to start pulling away from the cars you have on the screen, but even though he's able to pull away, he's just not able to pull away enough to start denying Entity the slipstream. Too much of Dazzler's despair, I would assume, but it is what it is sometimes. Rataka, though, going to take a look at the Italian. He is closing in on the cars ahead. He's going to have DRS. He didn't get DRS this time around, unfortunately for him, but you can see Entity has the rear flap open on his Haas, so Dazzler is going to have to stay put in P9 for the time being. Now, looking further down the order, all the cars, yeah, we don't really see any battles anytime soon, as we have yellow flags in Sector 2, so trying to figure out who could have pulled off that mistake. Can't quite tell. Like, I don't see anyone dropping time, I don't see anyone dropping places, so I can't quite tell who forced the stewards to bring out that yellow car, that yellow flag condition, even though that has been cleared already. But yeah, this is quite of a stalemate at the moment, because Entity just keeps doing enough to get himself up on J. Cole. Of course, J. Cole's mediums have a higher rate of wear than Entities, so despite the 7 lap difference on tire usage, it is going to be quite difficult for J. Cole to pull away until the end of the race. Zerd is still maintaining, the ghost car of Zerd is still maintaining 1/10 away from Iceman, and Nicola Longuet is finally up the pace a little bit. He's now 3.5 seconds away from Lehman, but looks like he doesn't have much ERS on his car. Lehman also doesn't have much, and you can see both of them on the same shots there. Nicola Longuet is starting to close in at a bit higher pace than he was previously, so this might go right down to the wire. Let's see how that one develops. In the meantime, it's still 6/10 from Entity to J. Cole, and also same time from Dazzler to Entity, so the stalemate hasn't been broken for the time being. Great job from Entity, I would say, to keep himself on DRS range of a car that has softer and fresher tires. So yeah, that is also a very good effort as well from the Slovenian, who got podium, taking advantage of the chaos and the crash in the last lap of the Australian Grand Prix. This time around he can't benefit from that much, but is going to be able to get possibly 6th place. I believe Zerd is going to be counted as a retirement, so I don't think Zerd's 4th place or 5th are going to be counting towards the standings, as it is as he is retired from the session in about lap 20, I would say. So I think everyone will just get promoted a place compared to Zerd, as Nicola Longuet, as we are now on the last lap, he gets the fastest lap of the race so far, as he's trying his hardest to close in on Lehman. Let's actually go on board with the Red Bull driver. He's trying his hardest, but it might just be too little too late, as Lehman still nurses at over 2-second lead to the Frenchman. Let's see how it goes. He can always pressurize Lehman into a mistake. I don't think any of these drivers have any penalties. At least I don't recall any race control messages regarding any penalties for those drivers. Actually, I'm going to take a look at that real quick. Lehman does have a penalty. Lehman has a penalty, at least 3 seconds of a penalty for Lehman. So that takes quite a twist on this, as you can see, Lehman has a penalty. So at the moment, Nicolas Longuet is on range to become the race winner. So despite having a commendable effort, if it wasn't for that penalty, Lehman managed these tires, managed this pace nicely to keep himself away from Nicolas Longuet. Is going to be the first one to cross the line and to make the fireworks go off. But there you have it, Nicolas Longuet crosses over the line to take home the win of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Lehman, despite his great job on track in terms of track position, couldn't avoid getting a 3-second time penalty, at least 3 seconds of time penalty. Gets himself demoted to P2. Still happy with his podium, I assume. Shadow gonna get P3, Iceman P4, Iggy P5, then it's going to be J. Cole in P6, Entity in P7, Deslad in P8, Rataka actually P8, Endinator P9, Deslad gets demoted down to P10. I'm assuming, of course, Zerds is going to be counted as a retirement. Kaibashimi, I think, has the same circumstance. It's still ghosted, I believe, as his ghost finishes in P12. Then we have Corporal Carrot. Cisco has already finished the races, he was lapped. And we have Corporal Carrot and Noah, who put on brand new soft tires. Is he going for the fastest lap? I don't think he's going for the fastest lap. But maybe just got another crash, and maybe he was the one who brought out the yellow flags to get himself trying to get the fastest lap, maybe for fun, but it is what it is. Corporal Carrot, after not the greatest performance, gets himself P13, and Noah still continuing the streak of 0 points finishes for Mercedes. Double DNF at Australia. Now Felix wasn't even able to start the races. He dropped out in qualifying. He wasn't even able to get a lap in qualifying because probably his internet dropped out on him. But yeah, Felix doesn't even have a chance to start the race, and Noah finishes outside of the points pink position. So once again, 0 points for the Brackley-based team. Quite unfortunate to see, but it is what it is. I'm sure they're going to keep going at it, keep practicing to try to get better performances in the races to come. So that was it for the last driver to cross the line. Going to get ourselves to the podium celebrations in a second before getting our race results. Let's see how that one goes. Because there you have it. Nicolas Longuet, also known of course as Chromatic, but Nicolas Longuet is going to celebrate the first win in ILR. Of course, he wasn't able to attend the Australian Grand Prix, so he not only gets the win, also the fastest lap. Is going to tie with Zerd for the championship, both with 26 points, but I'm pretty sure drivers like the Williams of Lehman, for example, I believe he might be the new championship leader. I'm going only to be able to find that out after I do my calculations in my spreadsheets. But there you have it. Nicolas Longuet in first, Lehman P2, Shadow P3, Iceman P4, Iggy P5, Cole P6, Entity P7, Rataka P8, Andinator P9, Deslat P10. Then we have Zerd, and then we have Kaibashimi, Corporal Carrot, Noah, Cisco 2 laps down, and then Plazitz and Darren being unfortunate victims of this Grand Prix. So this is it for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is, as always, right beside it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Hit the bell icon for any notifications of whenever we are about to start a live stream or to post any videos. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.